within 48 hours, you're going to have a dream.
Welcome to the Blue Door Playbook, a podcast for the soul, featuring the work and wisdom of archetypal psychotherapist Timothy Tate. I'm your host, Putter Brown. Episode 11, Shame.
So, yeah, bunch of stuff, right? When we talk about shame, we have that the compensation for feeling inadequate. And we'll talk about that, how we cover up that.
Yeah.
In other words, there's 5 of them that come to mind. Blame, contempt, perfectionism, withdrawal, and rage. What's interesting in Western civilization is we have an original sin story. And then using this as a definition of shame is the misbelief that by your very nature you are not good enough. And psychologically, there's no worse feeling than feeling not good enough.
And 40 years of private psychotherapy practice.
Yep.
When we come across the threshold and we come to your office, how many of us even know about shame or have any sense of what that is?
Yeah. Well, we were, when we talked last week about the shadow, and then the shame shadow was a topic that we landed on, and hence today we're talking about shame. I don't think the depth of a person's mind is known to them. So the trouble is, how do we find that avenue into such powerful forces as shame without, ironically, inducing shame? What's the matter with me? What have I done wrong? So I think the whole experience of shame is one of the central themes of my practice. And whether or not people know that when they come through the door, typically not.
I had an experience when I was working with you behind the blue door. Felt terrible and ashamed, brought that experience to you, and your comment to me was, we don't have enough time to empty your shame tank slowly, or something like that. We need some dynamite. So here I was, came to your office not knowing my shame tank was full.
Yes.
And then luckily had this experience where I was totally ashamed, brought that story to you, and that sparked a whole body of work, how to empty the tank.
Bravo. Yeah, and that might have been a bit naive to believe that we could empty the tank of shame.
Sure.
It's, as we've talked about other subjects, it's part of our curse, being human, part of Western civilization with that original sin myth. So it's always in play in the person's psychology, whatever the presenting issue is when they come through the blue door.
It's always in play.
Always in play.
So the first move is to identify it or share an experience like happened to me?
Yeah, I think so. Again, to identify it requires that we understand it in that sequence we talked about last week of identifying and containing and understanding, however you said it so beautifully last time we talked. the ability to face one's shame has to do with the capacity of one's character. So at a session where I was wrapping up, I said a sentence that really caught the client's imagination, so much so that, and he's never done this, he wrote it down. In your patience is your soul. And in your impatience, conversely, is your personality. And the tension between those two forces has a lot to do with our shame, how inadequate we might feel. So this gentleman was very impatient, very smart, very on it, vice president of a major company in our area, just really sharp man. And when I said that to him, it really caught his attention in that his kind of presentation to the world is what was tripping him up, as it is with everybody. Well, with many of us. Mm-hmm. So that caught his ear.
And his presentation to the world was impatient.
Mm-hmm.
His personality was impatient. Mm-hmm. And that is some sort of cover-up or expression or a way to manage?
Yeah. It's one of the curses of being really intelligent, which he is. Without our own governor, and we talked about this a bit last time, intelligence leads to impatience. It's like, come on, keep up. Mm-hmm. And as if this were a race, as if we had to be on top of everything and understand everything so quickly. Hence why he's a vice president, because he has the capacity to order people around and be on top of things and be very detail-oriented. But that doesn't translate real well into the relationship with his wife, nor his two children.
And in that example, his sense of inadequacy, his sense of shame, his unique sense of shame is misunderstood or not known or...
For himself, his sense of shame?
Yeah, for himself, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's add another layer to it, comes from a Christian household. And so he's very aware of that original sin story. And as such, his shame has to do with the perfectionistic piece that I was thinking out loud with you about. Mm-hmm. That is how he compensates for feeling inadequate, is being perfect. And that's kind of his challenge, is how come other people can't see what needs to be done? It's so obvious.
And he would have learned that in childhood.
Yes.
The perfection. If I'm acting perfectly, I don't feel ashamed. Or no one's going to shame me if I'm perfect.
That's the bet.
That's the bet.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And the trouble that brings, that's the kind of trouble that brings people to see you.
Yes.
And part of your work is to teach them or enlighten them what's really happening behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Right. As I've mentioned, I believe my practice has morphed into more of a mentoring process now. So it's hand-picked. And so the high-functioning people who come into the practice have the capacity to understand the relationship between whether or not they have a wild temper, which is the second most popular form of compensating for feeling inadequate, or whether they're really good at withdrawing. They know those behaviors, but they didn't know what drove that behavior. They just thought, well, I don't know what they thought. That would be the course of the conversation in therapy. But it often has to do with the tension of feeling inadequate is so strong that we unconsciously, so to speak, use one of these compensations to cover up that unbearable feeling of not being good enough.
And when somebody starts to, like you said, that man wrote that down.
Mm-hmm.
You said, in your patience is your soul.
Mm-hmm.
In your impatience is your personality.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things does that begin to uncover deeper? What kind of deeper things does that uncover?
Well, I think it pumps the brakes. That's what he was experiencing on his kind of approach to life. Mm-hmm. So what that reveals is obviously unique to each individual, but it has something to do with facing how you have led a life of compensation. And once you start to sense that or even know what that means, then you have a moment. You have an existential crisis. Am I living a life driven by compensations, or am I living a life that I'm somehow deliberately or consciously choosing? Intentional life.
I remember you saying that idea that we are just not good enough. We bought that, or somehow that belief was put on us. How does that happen and when?
Yeah, well, there's three kind of forces that come to mind. The cultural forces, school, and the family system. Those are the delivery methods for making us feel inadequate. As I've referred to in the past, I was lanced by the original sin motif. And because of the environment in which I grew up, a Chicago suburb that was blossoming in the 60s, the congregation my father had of 3 services each Sunday with 300 people each time, scientists and educators and professors as the main congregants. So it was this high level kind of aren't we the shit assumption. And aren't we something, and aren't we sinners? So I was lanced by my father's wrath around the human condition, by extension, family, and in particular, I heard it as me. The burden of original sin. What a wild-ass myth.
Yeah. The myth of original sin, you're saying it's not true.
That's what a myth is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
Right.
And we buy it
Right.
as true.
Right. In the psychological sense that there's something the matter with me.
I'm not good enough.
Right.
We buy that as kids.
Yep.
And then carry on in perfection, or all the ways we can compensate for that belief that I'm, at my very nature, not good enough.
That's right.
So if I'm perfect in your story, in the eyes
Right.
of your father, then he won't shame me. But if I slip a little out of perfection, then I'm going to feel the lance or the shame coming.
Right.
And that's the worst feeling there is.
Yeah. Failing was not an option. So what I did, and what I think people do in this regard, is have a secret life.
Mm-hmm.
You present one way, and you have that shadow life to compensate for the impossibility of being perfect.
Just trying to get clear on this. We buy this story that we're inadequate. It's the worst feeling ever. So we build these compensations or use these compensations as a shield or some way to not feel inadequate. And you were talking about the original sin myth, which in your story was a Christian myth. But if I think about it, it's a global story. Would you say that people on the earth in Australia, say, they're also raised with this shame story? It's not just like you said, Western civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Is it totally global? Are kids in Africa raised with this force?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Australia is, because it's part of the British Kingdom back in the day. I don't know about the Maori in New Zealand. I doubt that.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's not ashamed.
That's not a shame.
Yeah.
That's an identity rooted in tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, when you think about the global reach of the Roman Catholic Church worldwide, I don't know, is there, I think, 1 billion Catholics or some strange number?
Yeah.
It's such a riveting story for so many good people, because we all need some way to make sense of our lot in life.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of a myth is to create a story that satisfies that need, that identity. If I am a good Christian, I know what to do. It's spelled out pretty detailed. So the task or the opportunity for individuals to wake up to that myth is, as one author said, you can bet whoever discovered water, it wasn't the fish. You're so imbued with this mythology and the need to have some construct for the afterlife, which is its own menacing fear in our psyches. The whole plague of death. And so religion provides us with a structure by where we can feel, well, saved.
Saved, yeah. Saved from?
That's good, buddy. Let's see, that's a fairly long list. Saved from sin.
Saved from sin. And so your approach is saying, is revolutionary approach is saying it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So let me help you wake up to that.
Well,
Or
no, I'm not going to poke that dog.
Yeah.
I have respect for everybody's belief.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's right or wrong for you. Mm-hmm. I've deconstructed my reality and my mythology, but that's been my calling and my passion. I certainly don't expect that of a citizen or an individual comes through over the threshold of the blue door into my office. That's whatever your belief is just fine. And let me teach you about the nature of beliefs. That's the opening there. What is a belief? And I've been fascinated by that for 50 years. How did we establish belief as the root system for feeling sane?
But you do expect people who come to you to start to gain an understanding of shame.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So that's when we do the teaching modality, like I kind of talked about, that there are these compensations. This is what shame is. Tell me your experience of feeling inadequate. What spurred that? What was the genesis story, to borrow from the good book, of your shame belief? And then we start to roll because it's fascinating, it's interesting, it's scary, and it has its own momentum.
Could we take just a minute and just understand those compensations?
Mm-hmm.
You said 5.
Mm-hmm.
And perfection, of course, is almost easy to spot.
Yes.
But we don't know when we're coming to work with you, that's what we're using as a compensation.
Right.
How could we learn a little about those 5 compensations?
Yeah. So the listener might pay attention to these words and see if there is a connection in their life with any of these compensations. So we mentioned for young women, perfectionism is their handicap, their go-to. For men, it's rage. Nothing distances the problem of feeling inadequate than a man being angry. Really distracts from the content. And so rage is such a powerful force. It's a masculine force. The feminine counterpart to rage is fury. So rage or fury. Then the whole withdrawing. If I'm not feeling good enough, I withdraw. I see that on the playground. Kids sitting in the corner of the fence, facing out, not looking, just huddling there. So withdrawing. Then we have blame, which is one of the favorite methods. When I'm feeling inadequate, I'm going to blame someone or something for that feeling. I'm not going to take responsibilities. Obviously, Then contempt seems abstract, more so maybe than the other 3 or 4 that I've just mentioned. But contempt is the superiority piece. I will have contempt for that which makes me feel inadequate. Somebody's better shape, somebody's more handsome, somebody's more intelligent. I'll have contempt. I'll feel inadequate.
And when you start to get a sense of which 1 or 2 or 3 sort of work for me.
Or not work.
Or not work, yeah. When you start to get a sense of which one I go to, then you can sort of shift that behavior.
Ultimately, that would be our intention. But to do that is real close to heroic. meaning that we're so imbued with that behavior. We're so accustomed and normalized the behavior of these compensations we're listing that to stay conscious of that and aware of that in the melodrama of daily life is a big ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right next to heroic.
Right next to heroic.
Jeez. I just started thinking about if you in the work with you start to bring awareness to the compensation that I favor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's withdraw, my personal one.
Mm-hmm.
If I start to bring awareness to withdraw, then when I'm withdrawing from my partner or a friend or family, all of a sudden I catch myself with that awareness of withdraw as a compensation for feeling ashamed.
Yep.
I start to stay present or stay closer to the tension by not using that compensation for feeling inadequate.
Yep.
So bring some awareness to that
Yep.
through the work with you or what I'm reading. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to shift it or have a different relationship.
Yeah. That would be the intention. Mm-hmm. And I bet on awareness can override unconscious habits if you're intrigued enough by having that ability to see something that you didn't know before and that has some impact on you. And you go, wait a minute. I do not want to be fooled again. Ding.
Yeah.
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 Who nailed it, man?
When someone's in practice with you,
Yep.
and they're starting to learn about these ideas and starting to feel them and bringing some awareness, what kind of dreams start to show or be revealed or...
Yeah. The two motifs that come to mind are in the dream time, the motif of a dream, constellation of an image or a scene, was I'm late for an appointment. I'm going somewhere and I don't know where I'm going. I'm lost. And I am in a corridor that's a labyrinth. I thought the door out was here, but it's not. And then I'm over here, and this must be the exit, and it's not. And so that whole sense of being disoriented, lost, confused are some of the motifs. And late to an appointment for us civilized white folk in America plays really big. I was experiencing it today. I was going, oh, shit. I've only got 4 minutes to get to Putter and Key.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so exhausting, so rude, and so implacable.
Mm-hmm. So someone brings a dream to you in this work that says I'm late for an appointment or that door didn't go there. Mm-hmm. That's a sign that the dream time is showing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to use a vernacular, if you had your shit together, you wouldn't be late. Mm-hmm. If you knew something about your surroundings, you wouldn't be lost. If you were on top of things, you wouldn't be bogged down. That's another actual term or scene, being bogged down, really sluggish. I'm athletic and I can't move.
What kind of relief can come when you start to become aware and learn about shame and your personal relationship and your personal story?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of relief can come from that force?
Yeah, I think there is certainly relief, to the degree that the person is really understanding and invested in what we're talking about and what we're showing them with the dream image or the dream time. So the relief is to be able to talk to somebody about dreams, because everybody wants to share a dream. And, fairly often, if not universally, the person listening to the dream is just starting to yawn. It's just like, Jesus, really? Not that interesting. And certainly people come to my practice on the reputation and the legacy of working with dreams and are all excited to work with a dream. And so, yay, I'm up for that. And so that legacy piece is in play in our community. If you want to work with your dreams, go to Tate. And so, great. That is a handle that people hold on to when they come through the blue door. They'll have their journal, they'll have their dream book, and they'll want to share a dream. And you bet. Let's hear what the dreamer has to say.
And how quick does the shame piece come up to somebody walking in the blue door for the first time?
About 42 minutes.
First session.
Yeah, we'll get there
Yeah.
pretty quickly
Wow.
because it's so fundamental. It's the darkness of our psyche. It's that shadow piece. It's the unnerving lie about ourselves that we didn't even know we had, typically. So it's pretty eye-opening. And in my dotage and my experience as a therapist, I don't say that much, but I'm really good at timing. And then I'll say something, just a couple of words, and that will arrest the person. It'll show-stop them. Referring to that man who was in my practice, that vice president. He goes, I don't know how you do it, but you say the right thing at the right time with a few words. I go, good. That is my skill set. Thank you for saying that to me. He goes, well, thank you. I didn't see that. It was right there. It's like, well, yeah.
So when you brought that, in your patience is your soul, in your impatience is your personality. I remember back to once you telling me about the alchemists of old had a workbench, and inscribed in Latin on the workbench, the translation was, in your patience is your soul, period. So from their time, they got that. In your patience is your soul. But here we are, how many generations since those alchemists?
Yeah.
And you have added, in your impatience is your personality.
Right. Yeah. And so we'll see what he comes back with when he comes back in another 3 weeks, how this landed. Always intrigued with the energy that came through or the content that came through or the task that was assigned because of that. Because it really grabbed him. And when something grabs, my expectation is that it will stick. So the container or the system or the experience that the man or woman in my practice leaves the door and goes home to, that's a whole nother dimension of this work.
It almost seems like you're saying that when we leave the blue door, when we leave your practice, then we go out and have to commute to Big Sky.
Yep.
Or be in debt, or be in a committed relationship, or raise 2 kids. It almost seems like that's a opportunity that's where we feel ashamed or feel shame out in the world.
Yep.
Family, business, friends, whatever. It's like, it almost is seeming to me like an opportunity, even though it's so much trouble.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, where the proverbial rubber hits the road. You know, we share nuggets in the solitude of our togetherness behind the blue door. And as Main Street rushes by and the individual leaves and goes on their way, I have no expectations of how this is going to actually be integrated, as we've talked about. But I do have an assumption that what we have done matters. And if that assumption is accurate, they'll return with some boon that they've harvested in the nitty-gritty life they're living. And tell me about it.
Mm-hmm. You're like a genius at that too. You know, we bring the weight of shame or the troubles to you, and part of your genius is helping us get some relief from that in the moment, and then a task to get to work.
Period.
We've reached the end of another session in the Blue Door Playbook, a podcast for the soul, featuring archetypal psychotherapist Timothy Tate. Thanks for listening. I'm Putter Brown. Stay tuned for the next episode, where Timothy discusses using dreams in a therapeutic setting. The content in this podcast is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes only. If you are experiencing mental health symptoms, please contact a mental health provider in your community.